questions, but right off the top, one question for this young man, of course, is if he was a contractor for working outside of government, how was it that he had access to such highly classified documents? I'm sure agencies will be looking at that. And there's a question now for our government. How do they prosecute this man who is now hiding out, as you say, in Hong Kong? Lots of questions, and I think we're going to hear so much about him over the next couple of days. Fascinating and important story.
And so clearly this administration has been, the Department of Justice in particular, has been trying to say that it wants to be tough on prosecuting leakers. How might the DOJ be able to approach this situation?
You know, I'm not willing to say, not being an expert in the extradition laws of Hong Kong, but I think that we know, as a matter of fact, that Edward Snowden chose Hong Kong carefully. He says in the interview that it was because he felt like it was a relatively free government that he could work with there. But you have to imagine he also chose it because he thought he ran less risk of being extradited or rendered, even in his words, by the CIA from that location. I guarantee you that right now in Washington, experts at the Justice Department and also probably intelligence agencies are trying to figure out how to access this man. Do they prosecute? I mean, it's amazing, Frederica. We just found out about this story a few days ago, and it was only yesterday that the Director of National Intelligence said he was suggesting that an investigation start by the Justice Department. As far as we know, that investigation hadn't even started, and here we have the end product, the leaker. So agencies probably all around Washington are playing catch-up with the international laws at play here, and also with the politics involved in going after this man who some say is a perhaps hero, others say has done his country harm.
All right, Lisa Desjardins, thanks so much. We're not done with this topic. So what happens next, potentially, for Edward Snowden and for the United States, for that matter? Joining me now from California is CNN analyst Bob Baer, a former CIA case officer. Okay, good to see you. So might Edward Snowden be looking at charges from espionage to perhaps revealing classified information if the Department of Justice or the U.S. is able to actually get their hands on him, given he is in Hong Kong?
I think almost inevitably they'll charge him. He revealed SIGINT, signals intelligence, top secret. The government's obligated to go after him, bring charges against him. I just don't see any way out of it. You know, whether you agree with him or not, he's violated the law. They cannot let this pass.
And apparently he was formerly a technical assistant for the CIA. He's been working for a defense contractor, one that has offices in Atlanta, Hawaii, as well as in Virginia. And he has apparently been working at the National Security Agency for the last 4 years as an employee of one of those contractors. So he clearly had access to this kind of information, and reveals that he thought it was the right thing to do in which to reveal it, but that he chose Hong Kong in which to flee, to find safe haven, tells you what about maybe the support that he might be getting about taking this information and publicizing it?
Well, here's the problem, is that Hong Kong is controlled by Chinese intelligence. It's not an independent part of China at all. You know, I've talked to a bunch of people in Washington today in official positions, and they're looking at this as a potential Chinese espionage case. And I'm not saying this because I disagree or agree with it. You know, PRISM is necessarily a good thing, or this whole program. It's simply that it was unwise of him to go to Hong Kong to do this. On the face of it, it looks like it's under some sort of Chinese control, especially with the president meeting the premier today. You have to ask what's going on. I mean, China is not a friendly country, and every aspect of that country is controlled. So why Hong Kong? Why didn't he go to Sweden? Or if he really wanted to make a statement, he should have done it on Capitol Hill. I mean, you know, we don't know yet, but you can count on it. The FBI and the CIA is looking at this now as a potential counterintelligence problem.
And if, indeed, Hong Kong finding refuge there would make it very difficult for the United States to actually extradite him, given that the President of the United States and the President of China have been meeting all weekend long. You have to wonder whether the dialogue is changing about how in which the U.S. would be able to get their hands on Edward Snowden, how they would be able to strike some sort of accord or agreement so that the Department of Justice or whatever other entity with the U.S. agencies would be able to pursue him?
Oh, we'll never get him from China. There's not a chance. I mean, he'll disappear there. He won't be able to go anywhere else. But if in fact the Chinese had a hand in this, and I just can't believe it, a TV interview was done there in Hong Kong without some sort of knowledge of the Chinese, they're not about to send him to the United States. And the CIA is not going to render him, as he said in the tape, is not going to try to grab him there. It's just not going to happen. You know, it almost seems to me that this was a pointed affront to the United States. On the day the president is meeting the Chinese leader, telling us, listen, quit complaining about espionage and getting on the internet and, you know, our hacking. You are doing the same thing. I can see the Chinese doing that.
Wow. Bob Baer, former CIA case officer, thanks so much for joining us from California. Appreciate your